Bonjour à toutes et à tous les amis, ravi de vous retrouver aujourd'hui pour une grosse vidéo en exclusivité, puisqu'il y a quelques jours de cela, j'ai eu l'opportunité de m'entretenir avec Hermen Hulst, oui, le responsable, le chef des PlayStation Studios, l'homme qui aujourd'hui façonne, depuis près de 3 ans maintenant, la politique éditoriale de PlayStation, et pour les années à venir. Alors j'avais plein de questions à lui poser, quid par exemple de l'avenir des jeux solo, action-aventure, qui clairement ont fait la notoriété de PlayStation depuis des décennies, à une époque où le multijoueur, les jeux services, le mobile semble prendre de plus en plus de place, y compris chez PlayStation. Quid aussi de la cross-gen encore très présente chez PlayStation, de l'équilibre entre les jeux consoles et l'arrivée de ces titres sur PC, de l'évolution de notre média préféré, mais aussi de l'arrivée du PlayStation VR 2 et ses premiers jeux l'année prochaine en 2023. Bref, autant de sujets et bien d'autres que nous allons découvrir ensemble, pas plus tard que maintenant. Pour bien débuter cette interview, il faut se rappeler que, à la base, Hermen Hulst dirigeait le studio Guerrilla. Et depuis qu'il est à la tête des PlayStation Studios, depuis environ 3 ans, je voulais savoir quelle fut sa boussole, les directions personnelles qu'il a impulsées en interne depuis sa prise de fonction.
In my new role as the head of PlayStation Studios, I really borrow a lot of my learnings from my previous role as head of Guerrilla Games. In that old role, we were a fiercely autonomous studio with a strong creative vision, and that is exactly how I try to organize at PlayStation Studios. We are now a collective of 19 studios after some recent acquisitions. And in addition to that, some external parties. And all of these teams are very different. They all have a really strong creative vision. And what I try to do now is nurture a culture of collaboration between these various teams so that we can learn from each other, so that all of the teams make their own games that are really different, which ends up in a broad variety of world-class games that we can offer to our users. So in a way, I carry on doing what I'm doing, but obviously I work at a different abstraction level. I'm not directly working on any of the games in terms of checking assets into builds, but I'm working with all of these incredible inspirational leaders which have come to PlayStation to work with us.
Comment voyez-vous l'évolution du jeu vidéo d'aujourd'hui, avec l'émergence de nouveaux services du style PlayStation Plus ou Xbox Game Pass, l'explosion du free-to-play et des nouvelles façons de consommer les jeux vidéo, et surtout quel impact cela a-t-il sur les projets PlayStation Studios ?
I think it's when there's so much change as there is today, and there's so many developments, whether they're in terms of business models or technological, it's really important to know where you come from and what your roots are. And in our case, that means that on the one hand side, we will always be a player-first organization that always looks at creating the best possible experience for our players. And on the other hand side, we are a creator-led organization. We want to start with the creative passions of our teams to develop these games, whether that's on our DNA, building these great games such as Horizon Forbidden West that came out early this year, or GT7, or the upcoming God of War Ragnarok coming out in November. Or if we go onto PC, onto other, we want to start with quality. We want to make sure that we deliver the best possible experiences, and that's really, really important to us.
Les jeux solo narratifs ont forgé l'ADN de PlayStation depuis des décennies maintenant et fascinent des millions de joueurs. Mais parmi eux, beaucoup craignent d'en voir moins à l'avenir à cause de l'évolution du marché. Que pouvez-vous leur répondre ?
Well, let me put their minds at ease. The fans of games like The Last of Us and Uncharted and God of War and Horizon, we will always make these kind of games because our fans expect them from us. They want them, but also because we love making them. Like, this is what I grew up making, and I just can't see a world where PlayStation Studios would not only carry on making these, but also continues to experiment in these. Like, we encourage our teams to take creative risks. You see what Naughty Dog has been able to do in the Last of Us franchise, find new ways of telling stories, and that's what I love. So we will always carry on making those. And at the same time, having told memorable stories for over 25 years now and building these rich worlds, we are also very excited about finding new audiences, finding new players. PC is growing, so we've been releasing some of our titles on PC. We're standing up a mobile division as well, all in an effort to find even more people that can enjoy our wonderful franchises and the wonderful worlds that we've created.
PlayStation accélère nettement ces derniers temps sur la sortie de ses jeux sur PC. Mais il y a toujours un écart entre la sortie console et la sortie sur PC. Justement, l'idée est-elle de garder cette seconde fenêtre de distribution ou d'arriver à terme à des sorties simultanées entre PS5 et PC?
That's a great question, Julian. First off, PlayStation will always be the best place to play. We as PlayStation Studios have a very symbiotic relationship with the platform. We're often the first developers to try new hardware, to try new controllers. We take great pride in that, and we are really excited that we get that role. We represent the game development community within Sony, so we love that. I think it's been really great for the teams to see their wonderful creations also being released on PC, often with the help of our newly acquired team here in Utrecht, the Netherlands, Nixies. There are more players, and that's really helpful. I think going forward, we'll see at least a year between releases on our own platform, on PlayStation, and on the PC platform, possibly with the exception of live service games. Live service games are a little bit different in nature, because you want to have really strong community, strong engagement right away, right when you go live. So we might, in the case of our live service offerings, go day and date with PC and the PlayStation platform.
Il y a un an, quasiment jour pour jour, vous déclariez que les PlayStation Studios avaient 25 jeux en cours de développement. Où en sommes-nous aujourd'hui?
Yeah, that's roughly how many games we have in development, and obviously, in various stages of development. There's new projects that we are prototyping or having in conceptualization stage or in pre-production stage. There's titles such as God of War Ragnarok. Obviously, they're much further along, given that the release is around the corner. But 25, that's roughly the number of what we are working on at the moment. And I want to add to that almost half of those are new ideas, new properties, new IPs. So there's a good mixture of us working inside the most beloved franchises and coming up with new ideas to keep things fresh.
En parlant de nouvelles licences, Rise of the Ronin, qui a été récemment présenté et qui a fait forte impression, il s'agit d'un titre seconde partie avec Team Ninja d'un côté et Sony X-Dev de l'autre. Justement, qu'apporte PlayStation dans ce genre de cas?
Yeah, so that's you're correct. They are not a PlayStation Studios internal team, but we offer production management, some of the great services that we have inside PlayStation Studios, whether they're art services or technical services, localization services, production management services. So that external development group that's led by John Rostron adds a lot of value, and that's a collaboration that's going really well.
Pour en revenir aux jeux développés directement en interne chez PlayStation Studios, quelle est la répartition actuellement entre les jeux solo et les fameux jeux services, les jeux live?
Yeah, so we currently in various stages have we have 12 titles that I would qualify as live ops, live service titles in various stages of productions. And we have said that by 2025, about half the titles that will release will be off console, so will be either on PC or on a mobile platform. So that's roughly the distribution that you'll look at. But let me just repeat what I said earlier. The kind of games that the PlayStation community have grown to love, such as Horizon, such as God of War, or the Naughty Dog games, we will always carry on making those. So this is an expansion of what we're doing. It's not replacing that in any way, shape, or form. I want to be very, very clear about that.
Une question que se posent énormément de joueurs, jusqu'à quand la cross-gen entre PS4 et PS5 se poursuivra-t-elle? Quand les développements PlayStation Studios basculeront-ils enfin à 100% sur PlayStation 5?
So in our decisions on what platform to release on, so if it's exclusively on the PlayStation 5 or if it's cross-generational on PS5 and on PS4, we'll take those decisions on a case-by-case basis. Obviously, it's really important to look at the creative vision that a team's come. What are you trying to achieve? What are the goals for that project? And indeed, there will be games coming on, such as, we already released Ratchet and Returnal, that were exclusive to the PS5 platform, and going forward we'll have Insomniac's games with Marvel's Spider-Man 2 and Marvel's Wolverine that will release on the PlayStation 5. But let's not forget that there are still 114 active PlayStation 4 users at the moment. So we want to ensure that there are great games coming for them as well. So as you know, we released Forbidden West also on PS4. We'll do the same with God of War Ragnarok. So we're taking a case-by-case view on what is the right thing to do here.
Parlons maintenant de la réalité virtuelle avec le PlayStation VR 2 qui s'apprête à sortir l'année prochaine. Justement, l'un des reproches faits au sujet de la VR reste souvent qu'il y a trop d'expérience et pas assez de vrais gros jeux. Alors, peut-on s'attendre à ce que les principales licences PlayStation soient déclinées aussi sur PSVR 2?
So, at the launch of our new VR platform, PSVR 2, and that's going to be there early next year. We'll launch it with a fresh new installment in the Horizon franchise. We have a wonderful game in development called Horizon Call of the Mountain. This is a game that Guerrilla Games is collaborating on with a newly acquired team in PlayStation Studios called Firesprite. And I think this is a wonderful, fully featured title, fully featured in the sense that it's not just a set of experiences, but it's got its own ecotopes, it's got a variety of machines, it's got a variety of weapons, and it's a title that really is designed to be a showcase for the platform. So it's using all the great new features, such as the new controller features, including the adaptive triggers and the haptics. It's got great visual fidelity. The visual presentation detail in the world makes it very alive. I think the sensory features makes it so that you feel very close to the gameplay, to the combat. So I think that's our commitment to using one of our biggest and best franchises for fans of VR and people that look forward to a truly next-gen VR experience when PSVR comes out next year.
Mm-hmm. Ok, mais au-delà d'Horizon, peut-on s'attendre justement à ce que des licences en provenance de Naughty Dog, d'Insomniac Games arrivent enfin sur PSVR 2?
I can't make any announcements on other titles apart from that we are working with First Contact on another title in the Firewall series of Firewall. Ultra's coming out. That's a title that we've announced that will come out. And apart from that, I can't announce any other titles today.
Le PSVR premier du nom a connu un beau succès, critique et commercial, avec plus de 5 millions de masques écoulés. Et bien du coup, quelles sont vos attentes et vos objectifs chiffrés pour le PSVR 2 ?
From a PlayStation Studios perspective, my ambitions when it comes to PSVR 2 is to create the best possible showcases to show what the platform is capable of. And that's a role that we take very seriously. We love tinkering with new hardware. We love being the first users of new platforms, of the new controller, providing that feedback. That's something that people sometimes don't realize how rewarding that is for our engineers, for our creators, to see the influence of their early development. Those, I think, for the creators and the engineers are much more important than the quantitative goals that you were referring to.
Justement, créativement parlant, vous pensez que la VR pourrait être un véritable espace d'épanouissement et de libération créative pour les développeurs ?
I think you mentioned, Julian, that you had a chance to play Horizon Call of the Mountain very recently. I think that is such a strong example of being right there in that world, of feeling the awe of those massive machines right above you, right over you, being really connected in the world, seeing everything so up close and personal. So yeah, no, absolutely, it adds a new layer of immersion that you won't be able to find or experience without PSVR 2.
Nous commençons à sortir de 2 années de Covid, de pandémie, avec toutes les profondes réorganisations dans la manière de travailler dans le monde du jeu vidéo que cela a entraîné. Alors justement, du télétravail au crunch, quelles expériences ont été retenues chez PlayStation ces dernières années pour améliorer les conditions de travail dans les studios ?
So the well-being of our staff is crucially important. We take this very seriously, and particularly in the pandemic, it's been more important than ever to make sure that everyone's fine. So you mentioned the word crunch. It's our duty, it's our responsibility as leaders in the PlayStation organization to make sure that our teams are they're well resourced. They have the flexibility to take enough time to realize their creative visions. That's really, really important to us. The pandemic has been tough on our teams in some ways, just as it's been on teams that are part of other companies. Sometimes you weren't able to do certain things, such as, give an example, performance capture, for instance. So there have been some delays because of that, and we've had to deal with that. And we are now very flexible when it comes to remote working options and hybrid options. We have a culture where each of our teams get to experiment in their own way. So there's a lot of learnings that we share between the studios in various collaboration forums. So we're hard at work to make sure that we get all the learnings from the pandemic and we come up with really healthy structures to make sure that the developers and the creatives at PlayStation Studios have a very balanced career, including great career progression opportunities, including really great transparent communication from the studios down and from PlayStation Studios down to the teams and to these individuals. That's really important. So we're always hard at work. We're not perfect, but it's a huge priority for us.
Pour en revenir sur un sujet plus business, PlayStation et vos concurrents directs comme Xbox n'ont jamais autant racheté de studios que ces dernières années, au point que la compétition semble presque devenir plus financière que créative. Justement, quel regard portez-vous sur l'énorme concentration qui s'opère dans l'industrie du jeu vidéo actuellement ?
We have acquired 7 studios into PlayStation Studios over the last couple of years, and I want to make sure, I want to be very clear that this is not an arms race. We are always working with teams that have a strong creative vision that we feel fit PlayStation Studios culture like a glove, which they do. That's really important to us. And also a lot of these teams, we're actually helping stand them up. So we recently acquired Haven, and that's our first studio in Quebec, first studio in Canada, founded by, amongst others, Jade Raymond. And we were really impressed with their ambition level, with their creative vision. And I think bringing them in-house actually enables us to help create a studio, to help stand up a studio probably much faster and much more rigorously than keeping them external. So the idea that we're taking teams off the market is not necessarily true. It's sometimes quite the opposite, that we're helping come to life new studios that are going to deliver wonderful new experiences to the PlayStation community.
D'un point de vue un peu plus personnel, en tant que joueur, depuis le lancement de la PlayStation 5, quelle serait justement pour vous votre meilleure expérience de jeu ?
I've personally always been a big sucker for really fluid gameplay experiences. I used to love my arcade games as a kid, and I was just in Helsinki visiting Housemarque. And that game, and I'm so glad that for Returnal they won Game of the Year at the BAFTAs. That kind of experience, that moment to moment, super fluid, that traversal into combat, that's been the immediacy of that. That's probably been one of my favorite experiences. But I'll say that, but just when I talk about gameplay being the most important thing for me, one of my favorite games of all time was God of War 2018, just because that story was so memorable and so impactful to me personally. Being the father of a son that's roughly the same age as Atreus, I can be looking forward to a game more than I am looking forward to Ragnarok. So it's kind of, it depends on which day you're asking me.
Allez, pour conclure sur une note un peu plus légère, vous êtes très actif sur Instagram, oui, et c'est d'ailleurs très agréable de voyager dans des endroits exotiques avec vous par ce biais-là, mais je suis persuadé que vous pourriez nous en montrer un petit peu plus sur les coulisses des PlayStation Studios et que les joueurs adoreraient ça.
There's, the best part of my job is I get to see and get to experience a lot. The downside is, Julien, that I can't always talk about them. I can't always share what I'm playing, what the latest build is, of which developer. So sometimes I have to keep it private and just share you the picture of where I was. And I try to use my Twitter account for updates as much as I can.
Eh bien, comme vous avez pu le constater, il y avait de très nombreux sujets abordés ici même, dans cette interview en exclusivité française pour la chaîne. Alors, si vous aimez ce genre de contenu, si vous avez envie d'en avoir un peu plus encore, eh bien, n'hésitez pas à me le dire dans les commentaires, me dire ce que vous avez retenu tout particulièrement, et à donner de la force à ce genre de vidéos en les partageant sur vos réseaux sociaux, en y mettant un maximum de petits pouces vers le haut. Très clairement, ça envoie énormément de bonnes énergies. En attendant, si vous aimez ce genre de format, si vous aimez les interviews, eh bien il y en a beaucoup qui vous attendent sur la chaîne avec de nombreuses personnalités du jeu vidéo qui se sont prêtées à l'exercice. Si vous voulez ne rien manquer, n'hésitez pas à vous abonner. Et puis il y a plein d'autres contenus qui vous attendent très prochainement. Alors à très vite, et en attendant, vive notre passion du jeu vidéo. Ciao!